Hare Krishna everyone. So this week I will give you a introductory session on the Bhagavad Gita. Now before we jump into the what is Bhagavad Gita or why we need Bhagavad Gita, I would try to take a general uh, approach on why we need to have guidance from any scripture, any book which has been ordained by Supreme Lord. So like Bhagavad Gita or Bible. So what is the need of a scripture? So I will try to give a few point of views. So the first one is from a philosophical perspective as to why we need a scripture or a guidebook. So because we are all entities which need happiness, we are all looking for happiness, and that is absolutely natural because we are part and parcel of a supreme lord, of the supreme lord. And in our scriptures suggest that lord is Satchid Ananda Vigraha. So Satchid Ananda Vigraha means he is the reservoir of eternity, knowledge, and blissfulness. So, being part and parcel of that reservoir of happiness, we are also supposed to be in a ever happy state. Now, so we have a right to be happy. Now, the problem starts with the way we try to be happy. So, the general notion is that if we have good food to eat, if we have a comfortable life, if we have a fat salary, that means my life is would be happy. Now, all these examples which I quoted is something to do with the perception of the senses. So, for example, good food is for the tongue. I mean, the tongue will taste the good food. Then the perception of the eyes or the perception of the ear, that gives a happy feeling. Or so all these different examples, or all these different ways by which we think we can be happy is based on the perception of these different sense objects. Now, these sense objects are belonging to the body, but we are not this body. We are the spirit or the force which is actually driving the body. Now, this soul is something which is of permanent nature. Also, it needs a permanent, as I was saying, that being part of the supreme reservoir of happiness, we also want happiness. We also want continuous source of happiness. We also want to be eternally happy. So, this gives an indication that we are not of this world, which is marked by changes. We sometimes say, and it is actually a truth, that change is the only constant in this universe. So, for a soul who wants continuous happiness, for any entity which needs a continuity in their happiness, this material world or whatever this material world throws at us cannot give us the continuous happiness. And that is why even if we have all these good experiences, let's say I have a good life, I have a decent salary, I have good friends, but still there would be some kind of hankering that would keep going on within our hearts. We may say that okay, I am happy, I am satisfied in my life, but there won't be a day that in your life when you won't think, okay, what should I do to make myself happy, or what should I eat, or what should I see to entertain myself. So these kind of questions, if they are coming in your mind, that means that whatever you have at a certain point of time is not giving you the full satisfaction, and that is why you are looking forward to something, you are looking forward to a change in your life. So for example, if you are working 5 days in a week, uh, you are uh, you are earning nicely, and you are having good food to eat, but still on the sixth and the seventh day you are looking for a breakout from that work. Maybe you are looking for a short vacation. In these examples, I'm trying to explain that the happiness which this world provides is not the one which we are all looking for, and any scripture explains these concepts in more in detail, and the scriptures also throw light on how we can attain or how we can access that everlasting happiness. Then uh, then the next perspective which will strengthen this point, that we need some scriptures or guidebooks that can help us, is the ethical perspective. Now again, going back to the point of being happy, so we all want to be happy, and in the rush of making ourselves happier by the day and the night, we sometimes act in a way, or we our dealings are in a manner that they transgress the happiness of others. We trespass on others' lives. I mean to say that we trespass on others' happiness to make ourselves happier. Now, since we are lacking the eyes of, or the vision of the scriptures, or a guidebook which can suggest that what is wrong and what is right, we will always fail to distinguish that what something has to be performed, and what hasn't to be performed. So it is very important that we have a guiding light that can tell us that yes, you can do this, and you cannot do this. Because of n number of reasons, of course we are lacking this kind of guidance, and the other thing is that we also tend to think that my happiness is the most important thing for me, and there is no one to challenge me, or there is no one to challenge my view or challenge my actions because of any reasons, and I can do whatever I want. So this kind of mentality comes in only when we are not aware of the supreme force, or the supreme father, who is responsible for the well-being of all his children, not only of humans, but also he's also concerned of the well-being of the birds and the beasts and the nature. So if we have that guiding force, then we will see that we can peacefully coexist on this earth. There would be lesser instances of imbalances in the nature. So that would only be possible if we have the guidance of the Supreme Father, and that guidance can come from either from his messengers, or messengers, as I mean to say that for example, Jesus Christ called himself the Son of God, so he was a bona fide messenger of the Supreme Lord. Similarly, in our culture, there have been many saints who have come and have enlightened the people in general. So, for example, um, there were saints like Ramanujacharya, there were saints like Madhvacharya. Then in the south there were 12 saints by the name of Alvars, so who had spread the philosophy, the instructions of the Supreme Lord. So similarly, the instructions would have come from either from the bona fide messengers of the Lord or from the scriptures which contain the instructions of the Lord. So these instructions would then help us to have an ethical approach on in our ways of life, in all our dealings. So that is another perspective as to why we need some scriptures which we can follow in our day-to-day lives. Then there is uh, what I am calling as a contemporary perspective, because if we look at the history of the last 60, 70 years or more than that, then we will see that there have been continuous events of global conflicts. So starting from World War I, then World War II in 20 years time, then there was a Korean War, then there was Vietnam War. In the midst, there were also many nations who have to fought for their who fought for their independence. There were partitions, there were civil unrests. So we can see that there was a lot of conflicts. There was there were a lot many tragedies, wars, and of course there were natural disasters. So in this context, if we look to the decades of 60s and 70s, so that was a time when the citizens, especially the young citizens of America, they were totally confused, because they had all the riches, they had all the amenities which was needed for a happy life, but still they were not satisfied, because they were perceiving one war after another. They were witnessing all these civil unrest that was taking place. They were then there was a issue of racism that was going on. So because of all this, and despite having all the comforts and all the amenities that one can think of, they rejected the culture. The young generation of the 60s and 70s of America, and also some parts of the Europe, they rejected the the general notion of being happy, that is having good salary, getting good food, having a decent home. So they rejected all these notions and they became hippies. Now the reason why I'm telling you about all of this is because at that point of time, a saint by the name of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, he went to United States at the age of 70, and he preached to the people of United States, those hippies of United States, the message of Godhead. And that was and he not only because they were hippies, so the first thing that attracted their attention to Swami Srila Prabhupada's teachings was the Harinam Kirtan or the Sankirtan, which he used to perform at the public places. So in parks like Tompkinson Square Park, or in I forgot the name of that park in San Francisco. Um, so in the parks, he used to conduct these Harinam Sankirtans, and because the hippies liked to chant, liked to dance and sing. So the Sankirtana helped them. This Sankirtan was the thing that was the first contact that brought them to the attention, that caught their attention to this philosophy which Swami Srila Prabhupada was which wanted to preach to the people. Now, and gradually they started to change. They left all those strange habits of taking drugs, keeping long hair, wearing strange outfits, not taking a bath. So they left all these abominable habits, and then they changed, and they changed in accordance with what our scriptures suggest, like taking bath daily, then having vegetarian food, having and keeping all those clean habits. So all those injunctions, all those basic injunctions, which is mentioned in our scriptures, they started to follow all those instructions. So one thing is that changed the heart was the charismatic personality of Swami Srila Prabhupada, and the other thing was that he was preaching the philosophy without making any changes. The philosophy which Lord Krishna had instructed to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita 5,000 years ago, the same thing as it is was being preached by Swami Srila Prabhupada to all these individuals. So that is the thing which transformed their hearts and their lives, because they were teaching, they were being told the instructions of the Supreme Lord or the Supreme Father. And as I was saying, that the Supreme Lord, being the Father of all the living entities, he will instruct or he will give only those instructions which are beneficial for every living being, and his instructions won't be partial to anyone. And because he is Satchidananda Vigraha, he is the reservoir of happiness, eternity, and knowledge. Hence, his instructions are also full of knowledge, full of happiness, full of eternity. And hence, when these are being communicated to people as it is, then the instructions would have a similar effect on the individuals who take it, who grasp it, who mold their lives according to those instructions. So the point is that from hippies, they became the followers of the ancient philosophy, of the philosophy which is prescribed in Gita and Bhagavatam. And they were so much motivated that they started preaching on behalf of Swami Srila Prabhupada to people to the masses, not to the people, to the masses in different countries, in different cities. And this is also a reason why in 12 years time there were about from nowhere there were about 108 temples. Now the reason why I'm giving you these statistics is that you can just imagine that what an effect the true philosophy or the true the instructions of Gita and Bhagavatam can do to people in general. So these were the people who are just like 180-degree apart from the injunctions or the culture which our philosophy or our heritage tells us. And even then they could immediately grasp this, they could immediately take on all of their instructions, and they were also motivated to spread this knowledge to the people in general. So one example which I would tell you, and that would also will touch your heart, is that Srila Prabhupada had gone to United States of Soviet Republic only for a couple of days, and in those 2-3 days he could only meet and instruct one individual. But because of those sanctions of those days and of the communist era, so it was very difficult to preach openly. And from that one individual, there was this movement spread like a wildfire, although in a secret manner. But from that one individual who could meet Srila Prabhupada for 2-3 days, from him it spread gradually throughout the entire USSR, and people there, or the devotees there, took great risk to preach this to the people in general. Now, why would someone take a great risk, and why would someone go to the extent of losing his life to preach something which doesn't makes any sense, if it had been so? So definitely this had touched their hearts, touch the hearts of those Russian people, and that is why people, those devotees, went to that great extent to preach this philosophy. So the point is that even in these troubled times, even in these difficult times, people, if anyone can accept these instructions, may it be someone from uh, America or someone from Soviet Republic, if they can do it, then definitely we who are more closer to this philosophy, we also can accept this. We also can adapt the philosophy, because this ultimately gave them happiness. So taking cue from these examples, we can be sure that having the guidance of scriptures would definitely help us, would definitely transform our lives. And finally, there is the scriptural perspective which I wanted to present, is the scripture. For example, Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is again and again assuring to Arjuna that if Arjuna follows his instructions as it is, then he would get all the protection. He would get all the assurance. He would get liberation at the end of his life. So through many such verses, he had assured Arjuna. Now, for example, uh, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is summarizing the entire all the 700 verses of conversation that happened, and he says that Sarva Dharmam Parityajam Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhya Mokshayishyami Masacha. So that means that if someone forsakes all the conceptions of religion, and if he surrenders to the Supreme Lord, then the Supreme Lord will forgive all the sins which he has performed, and he will be given liberation. So all the sins would be absolved, and he would be liberated. So liberation means he would no longer be part of this material universe, and he will go back to the spiritual universe. And then he says that again and again he is assuring Arjuna, and he is saying that there's a verse where he says that Ananyas Chintanto Mam Ye Jana Paryupasate Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yogashemam Vahamyam. So Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yogashemam Vahamyam. So this means that if someone is wholeheartedly dedicated to him, dedicated to Lord Krishna, then Lord Krishna will fulfill whatever he needs, and also Lord Krishna will ensure that he doesn't misses out on something which he already has. So that means that Lord Krishna will preserve what you have, and he will also take care of what is required. So Yogashema Vahamyam, a side note to this verse is that this is also a motto. This is the motto of Life Insurance Corporation of India. Now, Yogashema Vahamyam, although they are using it, but this guarantee that the guarantee of Yogashema Vahamyam, that they will protect you. They will ensure your well-being. They can LIC cannot fulfill it to its full extent, because uh, Lord Krishna can take care of the soul, of the individual soul. So even at the end of the life, when the soul has to transmigrate to a different body, Lord Krishna assures that someone who is fully dedicated to him, Lord Krishna will ensure that he gets his future is secured. I mean, even after the death of this one body, that soul goes to a good destiny. A soul gets a good destiny, but uh, no one else can give that assurance. Only Lord Krishna can give that assurance. Then again, Lord Krishna is assuring to Arjuna that Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhaktya pranashyati. So he is saying to Arjuna or Kaunteya and he is saying to Arjuna that you declare to the world that my devotee won't perish. Name bhakta pranashyati. So there is the devotee won't perish. So that means that although people may say that okay, so but the devotees also die, then how you are saying that name bhaktya pranashyati. So so Lord Krishna is taking care of the soul, and anyway this body is perishable. So and this body, any body which has taken birth will die, but the soul is imperishable, and the soul and the devotee will and Lord Krishna is assuring that devotee throughout the life he will be protected, even after the death of this body he will be protected, i.e. he will be given a good destiny. So again he is assuring in a different manner. And Lord Krishna also says to Arjuna that that there is the verse that Gati Bharta Prabhu Sakshi Nivasa Sharanam Sruhit. So he is saying that Lord Krishna is the final destination or the Gati of any living being, and then he is calling he is the Bharta, or he is the sustainer. So we can see that the entire universe is sustained by a supreme force, and we can take it on the face value that nothing happens by chance. So there has to be a supreme force behind everything. There has to be a supreme creator. There has to be a supreme maintainer. So that is Supreme Lord or Lord Krishna himself, and that is why I say he is the Bharta and he is the Prabhu. That means he is the Lord of all that we see, all the living and all the living, non-living, moving, non-moving things. And he is proclaiming that he is the friend of all living beings. So we can understand that Lord Krishna is again and again assuring that uh, in his presence, in Lord Krishna's presence, or in Lord Krishna's association, or in following the Lord Krishna's instruction, there is supreme benefit for all the living beings. So again and again, the scriptures are calling for the attention that uh, people should read the scriptures. People should adapt the instructions of these scriptures. People should abide by these scriptures. So this what scriptures have to say about why they are needed. Now, so by these different point of views, we can understand that there is a need of a, a law book or a guidebook which has been sent by the Supreme Lord Himself, or which contains the instruction which have been spoken by the Lord Himself. And Bhagavad Gita is a book where we can find all these instructions. So we can so it's a concise form of a law book. It just has 700 verses, and it gives all the instructions that are required for people to lead their lives in a manner which Lord prescribes. And finally, people tend to have misconceptions on what is their supreme duty. Like some people think that, some people say that their action is their dharma. So whatever they say that their karma is dharma. So uh, then now problem is that the karma can reap results. They can either reap good results or they can reap bad results. Now based on the results, the destination of the soul will be determined. So if someone has performed good actions, then he will have a good destiny. If someone has if the net result of what he has performed is bad, then he will get a bad destiny. I mean, a good life, a life in a good species, or a human species, or even taking birth in a human species, he can be born in a very rich and opulent family, in an influential family. And if someone has performed uh, activities that will reap a bad result, then he will be pushed down to species which are lower in nature. For example, birds or beasts or animals or insects. So these life forms don't provide much independence. There is a lot of struggle to sustain oneself in these life forms. So so karma or the action itself is not important. It is more important is the action prescribed by Lord. So simply doing action cannot help you, and hence there is a misconception in this kind of philosophy, that whatever action we are prescribed to perform, that is the thing, that is the correct thing for us. Then there are some other kind of misconceptions that if we the service to other living beings is the topmost religion, or service to animals is the topmost religion. Now these activities are good, but again, as I was saying, that these all activities will reap some results, and based on the results, both the one who is performing the service and both who is getting the service would be further implicated in different life forms. And whatever life form one takes after the end of this particular birth, and that will have the effect, or that will have the same characteristics which any other life has. For example, it will have some miseries associated with birth, it has some miseries associated with death, of course. Then there would be miseries of old age, there would be miseries of disease. So simply doing any action, simply doing any seemingly good action is not sufficient. We need to do an action that is, one, prescribed by the Lord, and two, that will help us to go out of this cycle of birth and death. So to go out of this continuous cycle of births and cycle of deaths, which are happening in the material universe. But if we go out of this material universe and we go to from where we belong, i.e. the spiritual universe, then that spiritual universe is full of happiness, full of bliss. There is no birth, there is no death, there is no old age, there is no disease, and hence and we can attain that supreme destination only when we are following the instructions of the Supreme Father, because Supreme Father knows how one can get the supreme destination. And hence, based on these different perspectives, we can understand that we need to follow some kind of scriptures in our life. And since we are more closer to our ancient philosophy, um, some form or the other we have heard of about Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, and hence I would try to tell you what I have heard about Bhagavad Gita from my teachers, and hopefully that would give you some light into what are those different instructions that should be followed. So I'll start with that. What is this Bhagavad Gita all about? So as I said, that Bhagavad Gita is a form of is a conversation between Lord Krishna and Arjuna. Now Arjuna, Lord Krishna, we know that he is the supreme Lord, but Arjuna, although being a devotee, he is representing the conceptions or questions or the doubts which any common human being will have. So throughout the course of these 700 verses, we will see that initially Arjuna was having many questions, but gradually all those questions and misconceptions got clarified. Then throughout this conversation, then he questions about that who is Supreme Lord, what all his energies are, and what is the duty of a human being. Then what is the characteristic of a person who is a realized soul. So throughout these questions we will see that the many we would be able to see that these are also our questions, and also we would get answers to many such questions which we would have come across at any point in our lives. Now the Bhagavad Gita was spoken on the battlefield. So just before the great Mahabharata was about to begin, this Bhagavad Gita was told. Now the reason why this particular arena was chosen, or this particular background was chosen for Bhagavad Gita to be told, was because uh, as you understand that war is a situation of very intensive action, and there is a constant risk of facing death. There is a lot of it's a fountain of emotions, and that there are many things going on a battleground, and it is a very it's a very intensive it's a very intensive kind of thing. Now if we see that in our lives as well, we go through various conflicts, or we have to go through various struggles. So maybe the struggles may vary in nature, but everyone is fighting a war of his own. So the children or the youths of the nation have to are going through the continuous processes of learning and giving tests, examination, passing examinations, getting good marks. Then so they have a fight of their own. Then people who have got into jobs, then for them it's a different fight. They have to ward off corporate politics. They have to ensure that they are delivering. Then they have to ensure that their performance is above par, so that they get good hikes. They remain always on the top of the league. They are not made redundant in their work area. So for them it's a different war. Then for let's say the housewives or the housemakers, for them it's a different war, because they have to manage the houses going on, his working well, they have to take care of the people who are staying at home. They may be elderly parents, they may be young kids, or they may be their spouses. So for them also it's a different war. So we can see that everyone is fighting a war of their own. Now, the reason Lord Krishna gave instructions to Arjuna on a battleground is that to make us aware that even if we are in the midst of our own wars, even if we are in the midst of our own struggles, we have the duty to follow the instruction. We have the duty to hear this instruction. We have duty to abide by these instructions. So that is the reason that this Bhagavad Gita was spoken on a battlefield to empower us that if Arjuna, being on the verge of fighting his own brothers and relatives and his uncles, if he can after hearing those instructions, he could work, or he could fight on the basis of that consciousness which he received in the course of the instructions, in the course of the dialogue that happened with Lord Krishna, which is the Bhagavad Gita itself. So if he can have that consciousness, and with that consciousness he can fight the war, and he can be fully dependent on Lord Krishna, and he can with his full consciousness on Lord Krishna, he could fight the war. Then similarly, we can also, in our day-to-day lives, we can surrender ourselves, our actions, to Lord Krishna or to the Supreme Lord, and with that kind of surrenderance, we can lead our daily lives. So whatever war or whatever conflict or whatever struggle we have to face in our daily lives, even then we can follow the instructions of the Lord. So that is the reason that that Bhagavad Gita was spoken in the midst of a battlefield to give us that encouragement. So with that, I would close today's session. Hope it gave you some form of encouragement to know about this Bhagavad Gita and read about the Bhagavad Gita and try to follow the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. So from next week onwards, I would try to touch the different verses of the Bhagavad Gita in a serialized manner, and hopefully we would be able to know more from the Bhagavad Gita. We would be able to know what actions we need to perform, what actions we shouldn't perform, what should be our consciousness, what should be our persona in approaching our day-to-day lives, and hopefully it would help you all. So with that, I conclude here. Hare Krishna. If you have any questions, you can either message me or you can WhatsApp me on my number. So thank you everyone. Hope I speak with you again next week.